Okay.
Yes. Okay.
All
right, you're all set up.
So can you see me? Not me. You can't see me, can you?
No.
No.
Yeah.
That's my mother, by the way, Jew.
Oh, yay. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, sweetie.
It's like you and me right now, the three of us.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm coming on because there's a yellow box around my name.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's all.
So I am recording you, so just so.
It doesn't show it's recording. Oh, yeah, it's recording.
It is?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see that, can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it would appear just from the way the button is organized that it is.
Yeah, I was confused for a second.
Okay.
But we got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we'll give folks a few more minutes just to come in, and maybe even we could get started just after 8 if you want to give folks ample time to arrive.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. I have to go run and grab a cable really quick. I will be right back.
Okay.
Start video.
Mom, you might want to mute yourself. Do you want to mute yourself? I mean, unless you're going to ask a question, like, you know.
No, can you see that I'm on there now? Yep.
I can see you, but yeah, there you go. That's good. It'll all work out. So let's see. So we got some other nice people joining us right now. Hi, Mona.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's lovely to see your name pop up. I don't see you yet, but thank you for being here.
My pleasure. It's happy to be.
Who else do I need to? Oh, Helen. Hey, Helen. So we'll probably get started just after 8. Give a chance for a few more people to join us if they will.
If you want to get started now that it's 8 at any time,
Okay.
feel free to.
Okay.
Really? Did Blob hiss?
I'm on the phone. Thank you.
Okay, well, why don't I give it's just 8 now, so I'll give another minute and
Okay.
and then we can just get started. I don't know, I didn't see who's on the registration list, so I don't know if there are more people coming or quite what.
Well, we'll have no way of knowing. So basically, just when you feel we've given enough time, I'll continue to admit folks into the group, so you won't have to do that.
Okay, cool. So you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, we'll start in just a sec. Let's see.
Hey, no worries.
All right. What do you think, Lou? Shall we just give it a go? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna share my screen.
Let me just introduce the show. I wanted to welcome everyone to Nobody's Fashion Week. I'm really excited that you're here. And I'm really excited about this workshop, the Cape Workshop, which is one of life's most exciting garments, probably, and least ubiquitous also. So yeah, go ahead and take over, Karolyn.
Okay, thanks, Lou.
Oh,
So, sorry?
do.
Sorry, do. Thank you. I was looking at my name and speaking wrongly. Anyway, I'm getting used to this. So I think that most of you actually do know who I am, Karolyn Hatton, and I'm really glad to be here tonight. And thank you for joining me. Thank you, Lou and Ju, and everyone at Nobody's Fashion Week for making this all happen. This is the second month of programming of all sorts of fashion-related topics and workshops and shows and everything that have evolved over the last few weeks. So I'm happy to be part of that. Hey, Aideen. So I'm an artist based in Long Island City. Most of you probably know that. And tonight I'm going to give you a rundown of my work, my starting points, my context, my influences, and process. I work in a number of mediums. I regard, let's see, I've got to multitask here. Forgive me, hang on a sec. Just, okay, I guess that doesn't, the arrow doesn't work under these circumstances. I regard most of what I do pretty much as sculpture of some form. It might be two-dimensional, it might be on the wall, it might also look like furniture, but whatever form it takes, it's usually, to my mind, sculptural, and it's even for wearable work. I'm an inveterate scavenger, coming from a long line of scavengers, I would say. And so using, reusing, remaking, repurposing clothing and objects and all sorts of things, very inherent in what I do. And I've often made use of old clothing and textiles, incorporating them into tapestries, costumes, and furniture, and so on. So one strand of all that practice is capes. So here's a little video, just I guess that forward button doesn't work on this case. All right. Just about 30 seconds of capes in the garden, as modeled by my daughter, Loie. So yeah, capes. At least that's what I find myself calling them. If you think of capes, you know, you might think of, and would be forgiven for thinking of, sorry, stop, and there we go. Superheroes, right? Superheroes wear capes. That's not quite what I do, but I have kind of come to believe that there is a sort of power and strength, actually, that does have something to do with the capes, my capes. So, but you also might think of like a witch's cape, you know, cloaked, sinister, hooded, enveloping kind of garments that, I don't know, every witch I grew up with in fairy tales, white European fairy tales, they always seemed to wear something that looked pretty much like this. So long before I started making capes, I actually collected them and thought about them, I suppose. And on the right here, you'll see a picture of me for Halloween wearing a North African woolen cape that I have. And I was the three witches, or the three weird sisters from Shakespeare's Macbeth, you know, double, double toil and trouble. And I had all the ingredients on a stick, which included owlet, wool of bat, and tongue of dog. That's an eye of Newt Gingrich, and toe of frog. So it was all kind of on a stick with my cape. This cape, on the other hand, I encountered some years ago in this incredible, totally amazing, and sometimes controversial kind of colonial relic known as the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, in England. And this and others like it were made by Hawaiian Islanders, and it's all feathers. Like, it's hundreds and thousands of feathers attached to a fiber webbing, and thousands of red and yellow and some black, hugely labor intensive, highly valued and treasured, and bestowing and connoting power to the owner, who's usually the king or thereabouts. This one was thought to be the last of its kind, made around 1840, and it's similar to the ones that Hawaiian Islanders presented to Captain James Cook by island chiefs, when he was thought to be potentially superhuman, in a sense, due to his uncanny arrival on the islands and his white skin. It didn't end so well for him, but there are a few of these capes in collections, thankfully. It's amazing in real life. So the origin story of my capes, about 3 years ago, I was thinking about what I could make and sell, hopefully, as a holiday gift. And someone suggested oven gloves. And I thought, oh, I can turn out some oven gloves, I guess, you know, with an opposable thumb, which is crucial. And I spent way too much time prototyping oven gloves. And then at some point, I realized, who's going to pay enough for this oven glove to make it worthwhile? This is an extremely poor return on investment. So I abandoned that and considered what did I have to hand that I could make better use of my time. And I landed on my hoard of cashmere, old cashmere, in tubs in my studio. I've always collected cashmere, you know, moth-eaten or cast off, often colorful. So I thought, I can make scarves. Who doesn't love a cashmere scarf around the neck? So this is where cashmere comes from, hairy goat. But it's usually more in this sort of format that we know about it. So I cut up some of my cashmere sweater supply and began to assemble the pieces into kind of repeat patterns, somewhat informed by Bauhaus images, weaving, and also G's Ben quilts, such as these. I don't know if anyone has seen these in real life. They're amazing. And made usually from work clothes and fabric scraps. Jeans here you can see on the left, on the right, made by generations of Black women families in rural Alabama in a little hamlet called G's Bend. And really using what was handy, old scraps of clothing, workwear. But these quilts are extraordinary, and they've come to be, you know, highly valued, collected, written about, and exhibited. Not so long ago, I saw several of them at the Met. And I think they've kind of had a strong connection, or they've taken up the strong connection to the visually, the sort of modernist look, I suppose. That was a bit jumbled, but you get my meaning. So these three here are kind of my first, really some of the first ones that I made that Christmas, now 2017, I guess, about 3 years ago. And I made a few, and then I just on an e-blast sent out a bunch of pictures, and I actually managed to sell pretty much most of that first batch. I had no idea, what this was going to look like. I had no kind of, anyway, it was just see what happens. And as you can see, like initially, these were, fairly geometric kind of repeat patterns. But as I kept going, I thought I could keep doing this, but I really hate to repeat myself. And I find it really hard to kind of produce according to a formula. And so I could tell I would need to sort of change it up so I wouldn't get totally bored. So as I kept inventing ways to kind of keep going, these got bigger, so they became less scarfy and more capey, and more for the body rather than just the neck. Somehow they just became larger, and the more time I spent on them, the more organic they got. Sort of shapes and colors responding to each other, lines moving, interacting with the shape of the body, sort of draping and defining the way the cloak hung on the body and related to it or didn't. And at a certain scale, the cape kind of sort of redraws the contour of the body or erases it, both maybe. And by, covering, cloaking, hiding, and camouflaging, which made me think of this bedazzling, the camouflage that around, mostly in World War I era, was used to paint ships so that enemy rangefinders couldn't see them through the scopes. And I love that, bold line as camouflage. So making something what appears so visible, the purpose of it is to make it invisible, in fact. And I love that kind of twist. So here's some other visual references, actually. Sonia Delaunay, spirit animal, artist, fashion designer, costume designer, incredible person who spanned most of the 20th century. And here you see this dress in the center that she did in 1913, which it seems pretty radical to me, and ties very much in with the painting that she was doing at the time. On the right, a sort of scarf design, I think worn by her. On the left, another version, and then this amazing car with a pattern that matches the cloak next to it. And then this illustration or painting that has this sort of red descending geometry that really kind of pushes against somehow or counters the actual fluidity of a body, and I just really like that tension very much. So Sonia Delaunay, and she did this incredible coat for Gloria Swanson, the silent movie star. This coat's from 1925, I think. So another contemporary of hers, Elsa Schiaparelli, also experimenting at the intersection of fashion and art and looking at what might adorn the body, often consciously surreal. Here's her Phoebus cape from 1938. Again, quite different, but using this sort of canvas almost on the back to present this stunning sun, star, raging kind of flame. And then jumping forward many decades later, we've got Rei Kawakubo and Comme des Garçons. Very different again. And this, which I came across fairly recently, which I love because it's a classic. It's really kind of an invisibility cloak, almost hidden by a mosh pit, which I think is genius somehow. Really kind of making the wearer almost invisible by being the man in the crowd. So as I went along, my cloaks got bigger and almost like wearable blankets, kind of comforting, and that sort of the shielding or the protective quality kind of becoming more enhanced, at least to me, and also very visually declarative. Here I am, they kind of shout, like they're loud. This is my place, this is my space, you know, wherever I am wearing it. And I started taking one with me as I traveled, because it could double as a blanket on the plane, pillow, provide some much needed comfort, maybe some shelter even, and something also that's sort of dramatic or fancy to wear out if I needed something. There. And so not surprisingly, there's also a history of cloaks being double purpose to garments, but also shelters. These are known as, well, I mean, you can see what they are, rain cloaks or all sorts. I came across the great Russian name for them, plash palatka, which I think is, you can just imagine, that's almost onomatopoeic to my ear. But these kind of convertible capes, I've always liked something convertible, multi-purposed, and so the plash palatka guy wearing one, and a lot of other things underneath, and then the Pac-Man poncho, also for inclement weather in a festival field, maybe. So I have given you some of my references and starting points. I will show you my process after I drink my water. And this is actually a pattern that I saved, which doesn't usually happen. And because it usually gets cut up and then just kind of destroyed in the process. But for whatever reason, I was able to recover this from the studio somewhat recently. And you can see that I've drawn out and then numbered this kind of, you know, pretty hastily drawn diagram on taped bits of newsprint. And I would say that this, for scale, this is probably about a 75-inch length. Yeah, so I sort of told you I kind of lost interest in making repeat patterns because I couldn't take the repeat. And really every time I start with a solid, what I thought was a solid idea or design in mind, it quite often just goes by the wayside, or at least somewhat, if not totally. I use what I have at hand. I don't go kind of shopping for that one sweater color. If I have it, I have it. If I don't, I'm not using it. But if I have a shape that I thought I'd use in one place, but it doesn't work out with the color or the availability, then I'll make something else up, and then I'll just reshape or add or subtract or shuffle things around as I go, and piece pieces together as I need. This pattern I saved, as I said, from a piece that I did that I called Hot Lava. And with this one, I actually did pretty much stick to my plan. And my plan had this notion of a kind of stream of lava or molten rock squeezed between a sort of topographic rockscape. So as you can see, I numbered the pieces. So I knew that number 1 referred to black, and then there were 3 grays, kind of graduated grays. And then you've got this kind of river, I don't know how well you can see it, river kind of running through it. So get a little better sense of scale. And by this point, I have chopped up the pattern, and so that each of these pieces is going to be cut out of cashmere. A little pan for your amusement. And here is, once I've started cutting out the shapes, and in some cases, I think with this one, I have possibly started joining them a little bit, but mostly I've just kind of laid them out in the way that they're going to start forming. And as you can see, I've sort of resolved the grays and the blacks, but I hadn't at this point worked out the lava, because I had an idea that just didn't work at all for this. So I improvised, and so much of what I do ends up, relying a lot on kind of improv, I would say. And so cutting, yeah, so here is a little bit further down the same road for the same piece, as I'm kind of assembling, and I periodically hanging on the mannequin to see where is this gonna land if I were to wear it here, and if it were to be this long. So, and then there's me wearing it with paperboy prints at a political gathering, and he's actually running for Congress in Brooklyn. So that was hot lava. I'll come back to that in a minute. This is kind of, in a sense, often where I start, like trying to figure out like what combinations do I have that might suit this kind of idea I have in my head, and starting to play with, often it's contrasts that kind of get me going, and developing a palette before I really go too far on shaping. So yeah, I really start with the color. This is taking a wee step sideways or backwards, but this pink ensemble here was actually a kind of a transitional piece from going from the more geometric wraps to the more organic ones. This was basically, I decided I didn't want to waste anything, so I was going to use as many of the offcuts and scraps that had landed in my studio from producing the more rectilinear geometric repeat pattern forms that I had done previously. So I just thought, okay, I'm just going to see if I just stick a bunch of these really odd shapes together, can I make this can I make the sense of a repeat panel out of shapes that really just are quite rude, or that just don't fit. So this pink one, and you can see too that they still very much kind of betray their former lives as sweaters, with seams or like a bit that sits off because it used to be on a shoulder, so it was rounded and 3-dimensional. It was formerly inhabited, so they're not flat. A little bit further down the line of piecing them together. Again, I have to say I've got better at it, but when I first started doing this, it was somewhat inexpert and just going with color, and then kind of taking more interest in more organic forms and curves. And let's see, this one I call actually Pansy. But again, you can see me just kind of piecing together. And if I know that blue piece out there on the left has this like subtle curve, then I'll know that I have to add a piece that's going to reflect that curve, so that it will be, if not totally flat, it won't be kind of puckered and a total mess. So again, this is sort of evolved in, my skill has evolved with sort of making these decisions. And here you can see me actually constructing it on the mannequin, going back and forth between the table, the floor, and the dressmaker's mannequin. And it's on the wall, you can see that they don't end up that rectilinear either. They're not, this maybe is even maybe more extreme than most, but I don't feel the need to make them squared off. And because especially the way they sit on your body, there's a sort of flow there that I don't feel needs, the squared off rectilinear geometry doesn't really reflect on the body. So this sort of more organic flow and uneven kind of sway of hem, it seems to me part of the deal. So, all right. You can see here, actually, before I move on, you can see, I think this bit here, maybe, yeah, no, I'll go here. Here, you can also see these little panels of like crisscross, and that actually was white cashmere, which I never wear white stuff. I just don't. And the white cashmere, I've never managed to incorporate it in any of my work, so I decided to paint it. And so these are pieces that I've actually painted, sprayed, that I've set in here. Let's see. And you can see this one on the left as well, has some kind of a fabric spray painted quality to it. And then this blue one, which I call Peacock, is actually one of the biggest ones I've done. I did it a while ago, but it's kind of enormous. And it's not the biggest, but it was kind of early on was so. And so it just has this kind of extreme wrapping kind of, you get lost in it, sort of. So it's kind of hard to wear, but it's very enveloping. And here are a couple in the wilderness. That one on the left is a relatively early one, maybe when I was just exploring the circles and curves and stuff. And then the one on the right, I think I showed you an earlier version of Pansy. And here they are on side view. And again, this takes me back to what I was saying about the dazzle camouflage and the ships being painted in such a way that you kind of couldn't see the contours of the ship itself. And here's my daughter Loie demonstrating contours. So just finally, I'll say that the tactile quality of cashmere that I have been lucky to find secondhand and so on, but the tactile, the very light touch of it, the warmth of it is always, it never fails to make me feel like it's some kind of magic. It's so warm and so light, so sort of skin soft and enveloping and comforting, that I felt it was sort of necessary to me to make some wraps and give them to, in turn, to two friends who have had some really serious, painful, and sort of life-threatening illnesses in recent time. And so this is one of them that I gave to a friend. And I just feel that the cloak, the sort of cape, and the act of being wrapped within it does give some sort of nourishing kind of strength and comfort in addition to warmth. And it's like a potent hug somehow, some restoring, nourishing, special healing, maybe superpower, right? And this is the one I've made most recently, also for a friend in need. And this I made during lockdown, this one. Again, using the sort of spray painted pieces, and also based on that hot lava pattern that I shared with you earlier. So that is kind of an overview of my work. And that's my studio, and thank you very much. It's nice to see you all.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything.
Carolyn, this is Helen. I have a quick question.
Oh, hey, Helen. I don't see your name up here, but okay, maybe you're over in the side. Hey, Helen. There you are, Hedgehog.
I guess I'm wondering, use an overlock machine or just a regular sewing machine? Are you willing to share that part?
I am willing to share that, Helen, and I do not have an overlock.
I think,
And
are you muted?
am I muted? Can you hear me? I'm good, right? Okay. So to answer Helen's question about whether I overlock or stitch over the edges and finish the hems, I don't. At the very outside of this, at the beginning of this whole investigation into sewing cashmere, I did do some finished seams, and they were terrible, and they made the whole seam, you know, lumpy and kind of stretched into something else. And I have found that I didn't need to do that. That the wearability or the ability for the cape to kind of hold up did not need me to double over and sew those seams. I don't have an overlocker. So I just leave them raw, and they give, you know, a little extra kind of volume, I suppose, to the piece. And I, you know, as you can see that on this final page, like that pink one, which you saw at an earlier stage, is pretty raw. Some of the edges I leave totally raw, but I haven't had a great deal of issue with, you know, any sort of unravel. And I think that's the nature of most of the knit that I've used, is doesn't really seem to unravel a lot much. Does that answer your question, Helen?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you for being here, people.
Thank you for sharing that.
It's nice to see you all.
I do have one question, Karolyn.
Yeah, do.
It's about how you're sourcing all your sweaters now. Have you still been able to source them from your wardrobe, or have you had to look for other places?
I mean, I have always just got them in. I've been somehow, it's a miracle to me that I managed to find that other people send them to the Salvation Army, you know. They do, and sometimes I find it. And so, you know, I don't want to spend a ton of money on the materials, you know, but I've been amassing fairly long. And so, you know, I buy it when I find it, if it's, you know, buyable. And I just kind of keep them in, you know, color related tubs in my studio, tubs, bags, piles, you know, that sort of thing. So
that's a great tip.
Pardon?
I said that's a great tip. Salvation Army.
Salvation Army, Goodwill. But yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning, like I've always, you know, I've had a long history of scavenging. I always shop secondhand. It's just part of who I am. And so even before, you know, this project, long before this project, I was, you know, always collecting kind of wool, textiles, cashmere, sweaters, things to remake out of things. I do end up wearing quite a bit of cashmere sweaters as it happens. And then sometimes they'll end up, you know, in this, in the studio. So yeah. Yeah.
That's so awesome. They're very beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, well, thank you for including me on this project. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karolyn.
All right.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you all. Thanks for being here. I'll see you.